In 1 Peter 3:15, followers of the Messiah are given a divine mandate to, quote, sanctify Messiah as Lord in your hearts. In other words, according to the Apostle Peter, we are to pledge our ultimate allegiance to the Messiah and honor him as Lord. But what does that mean? Well, Peter tells us in the second part of that verse to, quote, always be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that is in you. So, sanctifying Messiah as Lord in our hearts includes always being ready to answer those who ask about what we believe and why we believe it. Interestingly, the word answer in this passage comes from the Greek word apologia, which means defense. And it's from this Greek term that we get our English word apologetics, which is a branch of Christian theology devoted to the study and defense of Christianity's truth claims. Peter goes further to say that we are called to give reasons, that is, the logic or the rationale for the hope we have in Messiah. In other words, we are to back up the truth claims of Christianity using arguments and evidence. So, perhaps another way to articulate Peter's command here would be to say that we honor the Messiah by engaging in Christian apologetics, that is, making compelling arguments in support of our faith and answering objections from those who challenge our faith, our hope in Messiah. This is something we're called to do, but sadly, many believers in Yeshua or Jesus do not acknowledge the importance of apologetics. Some go so far to criticize the discipline, relegating it to mere intellectual brain candy. They'll say, we have more important things to worry about, like loving God and our neighbor. And, of course, they're right. Loving God and loving our neighbor is important. But as we'll unpack a little later, apologetics is actually one of the means by which we walk out our love for God and love for our neighbor. The reason most believers neglect apologetics, though, is not that they believe it to be unprofitable. They neglect it simply because it isn't emphasized in their congregations for one reason or another. Learning why faith in God is reasonable and why we can trust the Bible as reliable isn't given a place within discipleship. And as a result of this, the body of Messiah suffers and is less effective in fulfilling our mission as image bearers for God. So in an effort to remind the church of the importance of this spiritual discipline, here are 5 simple reasons Christians should study apologetics. Number 1, truth matters. Many fellow believers I encounter are caught up in the emotional experience of religion, and this is not a bad thing. The emotional aspects of our faith in Yeshua are vital, but we cannot unhitch our emotions from our intellect. After all, the greatest commandment includes loving God not only with all our heart and soul, but also with all our mind. Think about it. If our emotional religious experience is the foundation of our faith, then nothing really separates Christianity from Mormonism or Islam. After all, Mormons and Muslims say that they've also had emotional religious experiences. No, what separates Christianity from other religions is that Christianity is true and the others are false. So you see, it's clear that emotional religious experience is not enough. God created us with a rational mind so that we may discover the truth. Number 2, apologetics serves an important role in evangelism. It's often said, you can't argue anyone into the faith. And yes, that's true, but apologetics still helps to resolve objections that hinder people from seriously considering Christianity. The goal of apologetics is not to win people over to the Lord by argument alone, but to help them see Yeshua clearly. For instance, Christian author C.S. Lewis went from being an atheist to a theist first through intellectual argument. As the obstacles to his faith were gradually removed through reasoned arguments and evidence, he was eventually able to see the truth of the gospel, and then it was through faith that he received the Lord. Countless people have the same testimony. Number 3, apologetics is a benefit to the body of Messiah. Apologetics serves an important role not only in evangelism, but also in building up believers in their faith. In Acts 18:24-28, we read about Apollos, a Jewish believer in Yeshua. He was, quote, an eloquent man, competent in the scripture. The passage goes on to say that he powerfully refuted his opponents in public, and he demonstrated by the scriptures that Yeshua is the Messiah. This greatly encouraged the other Jewish believers in Yeshua. Believers need to know that what they believe is rational and true. So apologetics gives us an intellectual basis for our belief in things like God's existence and the reliability of the Bible. As Ravi Zacharias says, what I believe in my heart must make sense in my mind. Moreover, Jude, one of the brothers of Yeshua, instructs us to, quote, have mercy on those who doubt. Therefore, the church is called to minister to the doubtful in their community. That means allowing those who have doubts the room to honestly wrestle with difficult questions while giving them guidance and working with them to find answers. Apologetics is essential in ministering to the believers in our community, those who struggle with doubt. Number 4, apologetics builds character. Another aspect of our divine mandate to defend the faith is to do so in gentleness and respect. According to Peter, if you are just arrogantly trying to win an argument with someone, you are not truly engaging in apologetics. Your character must reflect the Messiah. So, apologetics challenges us to not only be thoughtful and informed, but also kind and gentle. And perhaps nothing helps us grow in this area more than engaging those who passionately disagree with our deeply held beliefs. Apologetics provides us with opportunities to practice patience and self-control, even in the midst of heated debate. Number 5, apologetics has individual spiritual benefit. For many people, apologetics is one of the biggest things that God has used to strengthen their faith and help them grow in their relationship with Him. Learning about the various ways that science, history, and philosophy cohere with God and how apparent conflicts can be resolved, it's exciting and it's edifying. Like Jacob struggling with God and refusing to let go until God blessed him, apologetics allows us to struggle with God over the deep philosophical and theological questions of our time. Does God exist? How can God be all good and allow suffering in the world? These are important questions, and there's a blessing for us as we struggle over these issues. Indeed, the intellectual side of faith is what keeps our faith from becoming superficial and empty. I can go on and on about the utmost necessity of apologetics, but perhaps these 5 reasons are enough to motivate you to dive into this important area of discipleship. May your faith be thoroughly deepened and enriched as you study apologetics. I'm David Wilber. Remember, stay fit, stay founded in truth.